And welcome to another episode of Red and Black, where your conservatism is not just the color that you used to. I'm Lenny McAllister, also known as the man that reformed corn pop, which of course then allowed Joe Biden to be the man that he is today. Now, the question you have to ask, if I'm the dude that reformed corn pop, who reformed me? Well, the answer to that question is these three characters. Welcome aboard to Red and Black. First, the first character to my left, who, I got something for you, sister. Now, I heard that you went to and found your bars, but apparently there was a price to pay for that. You may think you know what that price is, and you can tell us now, but I truly know what the price was. AIRDATE.
I went to find a speakeasy bar last week because it was a friend's birthday and everything's been closed. Today, restaurants are officially allowed to open outdoors here in California. Again, we've been under a weird stay-at-home order. And if you've been reading what over at Red State, we've been covering all of the craziness. But last week, I went to find a speakeasy bar. My local watering hole has been open this whole time. They've never closed. It's totally like going back in time. Like, you got to walk in through the back. Like, all the windows are covered. You're not allowed to have your cell phone out when you're in there. But it was like this time in 2019. The bar was packed. There was a band. It was like a really fun and regular normal atmosphere, and took my friend out. We had a great time, and then the next day her husband made her take a COVID test.
One question before
I do not have COVID. Nobody has COVID that I know.
One question before I go on to the other two folks, which is, was your friend's name Kira? No, and I did not go to the bar by myself and order double the drinks under the pretense that I had another friend probably coming at some point. No, Lenny, I resent the accusation. You've had some strange behavior this week, and we'll get to that in just a second.
I live in California. I'm a weirdo. What do you expect?
It's all fun and games until Elliot Ness shows up.
Let's go from the weird one to the smart one. Dr. Chris Metzler, good evening to you, sir. Good morning to you, sir. Welcome to another edition of Red and Black. Do you have anything to say that would explain her behavior? Do you have a PhD in psychiatry and psychology in addition to all the other degrees that you have?
No, well, her behavior is completely normal. I mean,
see, Lenny?
Given the circumstances, given the drama, given the stress, completely normal. See, that's the thing that you don't understand. Of all of us, Kara is the one who's completely normal. We're the wackos.
Right. This is why Chris is the best male member of Red and Black.
Well,
this is why.
First of all, I love the way you put that conditionally, Mr. We don't believe in identity politics over there, Madam Editor at Large. Number two, you were the dude, by the way, Dr. Metzler, PhD, MD, JD, MOUSC. You were also the dude pitching for lawsuits after COVID with hand sanitizers and masks over the last couple of weeks. And I'm not going to tell anybody, but I was actually...
No.
But I digress. What? You had something to say. Go quick.
Yeah, it's torts keep the American free economy going. Where would we be without torts? It's free enterprise, folks. That's what we do.
And we joke before we go to Jeff, but let's just be honest. Do we have more lawyers per American citizen or more doctors per American citizen?
Lawyers.
Yeah, I know.
You remember what Shakespeare said? First kill all the lawyers, which is why I'm not only a lawyer.
You hedged your bets. I like it.
So, the Black Han Solo, who was the only person on the show last week that actually got the Doctor Who joke, is going to show you just how much of a black nerd he is. Jeff Charles in the heart of Texas, wearing his hat and reliving the 1970s. Hello, sir.
Hello. Never tell me the odds. That's no moon. That's a space station. And as far as being smart and weird, I think I combined the best of both because I'm here in Austin with the city whose motto is keep Austin weird. So and I'm brilliant. So
Yeah, there you go.
I've got the best of both worlds.
And
Agreed.
yet you ruined all that by literally quoting Han Solo from not one movie, but 2 Star Wars movies.
That's not a bad thing, Lenny. That's a
You
good
keep messing
thing.
with me, I will change my Twitter handle to Black Han Solo.
He's done it before.
No, hold on. Yeah, I was going to say, thank you, Kara. You'll change it back to Black Han Solo. So away you go, and away you go, because I have issues to ask you about, ma'am, and I'm really, really curious as to whether or not what I'm about to show the world had something to do with your little excursion to the bar. Mrs. Davis, explain this to me. That face right there. Explain that to me. I'm not going to say anything else. I'm going to go away, and I want you to explain what was going through your mind when that face right there was being made.
This face, my kids are really familiar with. This face is and I have to make this PG-13. Negro, are you kidding me? That's what that face is. This is a face I made specifically this week for the teachers unions, because as we know, Lenny, a lot of parents are concerned about when their kids are going to get back into school. Some states have already been back, at least on some kind of hybrid schedule. But like in Texas, they're back. But here in California, it's been up and down. Most counties still aren't in school, and the counties that are in public school are a hybrid, half and half. Chicago Public Teachers Union has said, even though they've been given the clearance to go back to school, they have said we won't go back to school. We don't consider it to be safe, and we have a list of demands before we'll go back to school. In fact, we don't think we should go back to school for the rest of the 2021 school year. And I think I was speaking for a lot of parents in that video. I mean, the face is funny, but the sentiment behind it was pure rage, because I think a lot of us have had enough. And not only has the CDC, the WHO, and the president of the United States himself, as well as Dr. Fauci, all have said that it's safe to send kids back to school. The teachers can go back safely with some modified safety regulations, which they already use in states like Florida and Texas, and that there's absolutely no link to COVID fatalities or outbreaks within public school. And yet the teachers union are still telling us, no, we don't want to go back to school. So that's me telling them to get their asses back to work, because at some point it's okay to want to be safe in your workplace. I get that. But we're going on a year now of this nonsense. And a year is more than enough time to study the figures and to figure out how to do this safely. And as we've seen, the proof is all over the country. There are places, all a private school in California has been back since the start. They've all been in session. There's no COVID outbreaks in private schools. The teachers are doing just fine. This is selfishness. And at some point, we have to say, okay, enough is enough. We've made every concession to you to make this as safe as possible for you to return to work. If you do not wish to return to work, you need to quit and find another job. Teachers are not entitled to their jobs. Teachers are not entitled to be employed. If I don't work, if I call Red State tomorrow and say, can you keep paying me, but I'm not going to write anything, I'm going to get fired. So sure as tell the teacher who wants to keep taking my money but doesn't want to teach my kid needs to be fired too. Go get another job if you don't want to go back to school.
And Jeff, I'm going to go to you next, and then Dr. Metzler. We're all parents on this line. Kira so eloquently said, go walk a dog. That's literally the advice she gave. If you wanted,
I said learn to code or learn to code.
But learn to code makes sense. Go walk a dog just kind of gets to the point of get out the way. And I'm not taking sides on this, but Jeff, she speaks from what I've heard and what we saw online this week. She spoke for millions of parents around the country that basically feel like, listen, you know, you don't want our kids going to private school. You don't want our kids going to charter school, but in the bigger cities, you also don't want to go back to work. And I heard a lot of amens on social media from what Mrs. Davis
got a
said
lot.
and from that look she gave, Jeff?
I mean, imagine the number of parents that didn't say anything but still agree. I mean, the point is apt. I mean, you're paying taxpayer money to pay their salaries for them to not want to show up to work. It's already been shown, especially in New York City, it's already been shown that having kids go back to school has not made the COVID problem worse. So it's also been shown in other school districts as well. So there really is no reason. Now, if I'm going to be cynical, which I am, they just want to get that paycheck and not have to go to work. They want to get that bag and not have to actually show up and do what they need to do. I'm not convinced that this is really being done out of a sense of being concerned about safety. So our kids are suffering because of it. I mean, and parents are ready for their kids to go back to school. I mean, actually, my kids haven't even gone back to school yet either. So it's a situation where you can only argue an overabundance of caution for so long. It's been a year, and you're already talking about having it be this way for the rest of 2021. No, at that point, I know what you're doing. This isn't about safety. This is about something else. And I hope that every parent rises up and puts their foot where and gets them going. If they don't want to do the job, then yeah, go walk dogs and wear your mask while you're doing it too, even though you're not going to encounter anybody. But don't deprive kids of what they need as far as education goes, and don't squander taxpayer money just because you want to do what you want to do.
Dr. Metzler, what's interesting is Las Vegas is opening their schools, and against probably what the local teacher unions are saying there, and of course the national entities are saying, but they're doing it because they're seeing a spike in attempted suicides and suicides. Now, interestingly enough, we heard about this the first quarter and second quarter of 2020, the calendar year, where they said, listen, what about the mental health of all this isolation, all this stress, all these things, these sudden shutdowns of the economy, these sudden lockdowns of lifestyles? It's going to have an impact on all Americans, but specifically the most vulnerable, who happen to be kids. And at one point in time, part of the rhetoric was, whatever. Now we're seeing a major school district in a top 30 city open up for the very same things we heard were cockamamie just a year ago.
Well, so a couple of things there. We now have the savior in the White House. So Joe Biden's the savior. And as a result of that, apparently all's going to be okay. Bull stuff. That's number one. Number two, as it relates to the unemployment thing, and we're going to talk about his executive orders later. One of his executive orders says, if you feel or in fear of the fact that you may catch COVID, you can quit and still get unemployment. Look, this is the theater of the absurd. The school districts need to open the schools. There is no excuse. The private schools have done it. The charter schools have done it. But what you have is you have the union folks who are saying, oh, we don't want to do it because we want to see, we can do distance learning and we can do that while we go to get our groceries. And it's like, this is crazy, folks. The fact of the matter is you're a public servant. We're paying for you. Look at the taxes that we're paying and look at the return that we're getting from an education standpoint. We're getting zero, folks. And so they need to, and I'm completely on board with this, go to work or walk a dog. And Jeff, absolutely. Actually, you probably should wear a double mask now.
Right. Or three. Or three. Yeah, and three could be four. I read four. I literally did read four yesterday. So.
Yeah. You
Look,
can do that.
I want to add to what Chris just said, because this is the other piece that really enrages me, is not only have these unions decided they're going to hold our students hostage for whatever demands they have, and I think part of it might be that they're actually trying to wring more money out of the government. I'm not sure that all of it is that, well, we just want to stay home and not teach. I think some of it is like we're trying to hold hostage kids for more COVID money, you know?
Yeah.
And, but the other thing that I find really insulting and what I was speaking on behalf of parents everywhere, I think, is that not only have the unions hung our kids out to dry, they've been nothing but insulting and demeaning to parents. They have, and the teachers that follow that union line as well. There's good teachers that don't agree and want to go back to school. But by the way, I got a lot of those messages too. People saying, hey, it's not all of us. Some of us really want to go back to school. You know what? I don't want to hear that either. Stand up.
Right.
Stand up and speak for us in your union. Then don't tweet at me or send me a DM and say, oh, whisper, oh, I'm one of the good ones. I want to go back to school. Well, guess what? We're in this mess because good people just stood aside and said, I'm not going to get involved in this stuff. I'm not going to put myself at risk. And now our kids are at risk. So I don't want to hear it. I feel sorry for you. Sorry, but it's up to you to stand up to your union. I'm not in the union. You are. The other thing is that no one's ever said thank you to us.
Right.
We parents pivoted just like the teachers did last year. And people like me happen to be in a very blessed position where I have a job where I can work from home and I can afford to take on the childcare that the hole that was missing when public school closed. That's me. I live in Southern California, where we have a huge low-income population and a huge immigrant population where other people don't have those choices. And the teachers' unions are spitting at those people and hissing at those people and calling those people murderers and morons and idiots because they want to send their kids back to school so that they don't have to leave them alone while they go to work, or so that they don't have to sit and watch their kids sink further and further into listlessness and depression. That's what infuriates me too, is that they've treated us like crap. They treat us like we don't care about our kids. I'm not going to send my kid back into an environment that I think is fatal. I love my kid more than you love my kid. So believe me, I've done my research. It's fine. Get your ass back to school or find another job.
Dr. Metzler, now that Kira took all your words, I'm going to let you try to fill in and add to her brilliance. She was talking about people.
He agrees with me.
Well, of course he does. Apple polisher. I mean, all these things in regards to the lack of excitement for the Biden administration. When does it wear off? I mean, he's starting to roll out policies. Some of the vaccines will be out there. That's starting to be, well, I don't know if we're going to be able to get that out there as fast. We're talking about $2,000 checks. Well, maybe there'll only be $1,400 checks. Hey, well, we're going to be able to change the trajectory of how this virus is spreading. Well, there's not much we can really do initially. When do people start saying, you know what, it's particularly Black America, when do folks start saying, we got sold a bill of goods by a Scranton Joe?
Next week.
Wow.
And here's why I say that, because people were not excited about them to begin with. With Obama, people at least were excited. And so, first of all, that whole vaccine thing, that's bunk. I mean, there is no way, at best, if you can get 40% of this country vaccinated, that's at best what you're going to be able to do. So that's number one. So stop the lies about, oh, we're going to get 80%. That's never going to happen. It's not going to happen. People of color in particular are not going to take it in significant ways. So you've got that going on. Number two, with the whole thing about selling a bill of goods, hey, for African Americans in particular, supposedly your idea is, well, we're going to take care of you. But one of the first things that you do is look at the policy relative to illegal immigration. And I'm sorry, I'm an immigrant. Yes, I came here legally, as should everyone else. And so if you're telling me that you're for African Americans, you're not acting that way. And to the point earlier, I don't view Kamala.
Kiki, are you riding?
There you go. I don't view her as Black. Woman of color, whatever.
I don't think she does either. I think this is crazy. I don't think she thinks that about herself. That's a label we literally slapped on her 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I don't think she did. And the whole, Chucks and Pearls and that whole Vogue, whatever that magazine was thing. Okay, what are you trying to lighten her skin? Come on, stop already.
What's going to happen when we get like an actual black woman in office? Now we don't get that first.
Yeah,
now
exactly.
It's kind of weird mix that we just plucked out of nowhere when she herself is on record. Matter of fact, maybe when we get off here, I'll go find it. She is on record saying, I do not identify as African American. It's not how I was raised, and I wouldn't dare take that legacy upon myself. That is, she said that. Those are her words.
Yeah, but except for the fact that she celebrated Kwanzaa, and she remembered the stories of Kwanzaa. Look, I'm from the Caribbean. Yeah, I'm from the Caribbean. We never heard of Kwanzaa. Okay, we're about in the same age range when she was growing up, talking about the candles.
Oh,
no,
please,
baby, we don't have that in the Caribbean. So
I did. My stepmother went through a Black Power phase when I was a teenager, where we were not allowed to have any like white media in the house. We weren't allowed to have any no white magazines, no Vogue, not even Newsweek. That was like a white magazine. My baby sister, wasn't allowed to have any white dolls. We had to go get her black Barbie dolls, and I can remember being like 19 years old with my 5-year-old sister in the store. I was instructed to buy her a Barbie doll, but only a black one, and her screaming at me in the middle of the store, you always make me buy the black Barbie. You never let me have a white Barbie. And me being like, oh my God, here, have the blonde Barbie.
Yeah,
I'm embarrassed. But we did have to celebrate.
She was blonde, but was she also still black?
No.
There's that.
It was a blonde, typical Barbie. That's what she wanted.
Compton blonde Barbie. You could do that.
No Compton blonde Barbies then. There was like a Tyra Banks black Barbie. That was it. But I say all this to say that we
mentioned, by the way, when you said Tyra Banks, Jeff was like, "Oh, I'm in the show."
Yeah.
I'm trying to cut you off. I just noticed that, Jeff. You ain't fooling nobody. Keep going.
Oh, I'm not trying.
Tyra taught us to smize. No, listen, we celebrated Kwanzaa briefly during my teenage years for 4 or 5 years, and it sucks. So Pamela she's lying when she says this is beautiful historic holiday. It's made up. We just made it up in the 60s, and it's not fun. It's not fun.
Let's take a step back for a second, because this is interesting that we're talking about this with Biden and Harris, because just 6 months ago, we were told how much they're going to heal the country, heal the racial divide and everything else. And we did go through a whole lot of divisive times over the last several years, including, by the way, 2014 Ferguson, 2015 Baltimore. By the way, those were on the Obama watch, as well as stuff that happened on the Trump watch, Charlottesville and the like. However, what is this administration, Jeff, really going to be for Black people? Because if they weren't really that excited for the administration as they were against Donald Trump, now that they're in, now that the Democrats have 50 senators, and we still have policies that Black people are kind of shrugging their shoulders about and saying, I don't really know how that's going to help me. And we know that the Biden administration is being tugged back and forth between the pro-school choice segment, which is overwhelmingly supported by African Americans, and the teachers unions, which is overwhelmingly not supported by African Americans or represented by African Americans, by the way. And that's symbolic of what's going on and what Black America is seeing with this emerging and incoming administration. What is this administration's legacy starting to become with Black people? I know it's very early, but you're already seeing signs, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, Biden's not going to do anything. And I don't think that Black people will really be surprised by it. Right. I mean, I don't think that they expect much from him. I mean, I know that they've got some cheerleaders. They come after me on Twitter like, oh, don't criticize Biden or whatever. No, he's not going to do anything. Now, I get it. You're glad that Trump's out, but Biden is not going to do anything. Like,
how long does that last, Jeff? How long does that last? I mean, you can be like, thank God Trump's gone. But when you're unemployed for 8-9 months, you're going to forget about Trump. Yep. I mean, so how long is that going to last with Black folks who, by the way, were calling Joe Biden out this time last year? We're calling him out on the campaign trail, calling him out in the media. I got to believe it's going to change soon.
Yeah, like the good doctor says, it's going to start next week. I mean, and I don't think that that's much of an exaggeration. I think that Black men especially are going to start calling him out. He's already announced his agenda. He's announced all these executive orders. None of them have anything to do with Black people. I know he's met with some people, but that's all he's done so far. And I don't think that Black people expect him to get a lot done right this second. But is he even going to at least lay out his plan for Black America? Is he going to say, hey, I'm going to have this done by this time, yada, 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 yada. Here's why I'm doing this. Here's why I'm not going to support school choice, even though you guys want it. But that's basically the attitude he's going to have. He doesn't have to do anything because he has the support automatically. And this will happen with the next Democratic president too. The only way that this will even matter is once they start having actual competition. I think that day is coming, but right now, Democrats know that they don't have to do much.
But it's interesting. Let me go to you first, Dr. M. I'll pull Kira back in just a second. You're seeing articles like this. This came out this week in the Financial Times. You see the headline, Black Americans like me expect Joe Biden to deliver. It seems as though, unlike what happened with Barack Obama, when he went from that meteoric rise from state senator to U.S. senator to president, literally in 7 years, and people forget that. He was a state senator in 2003 as a long shot senatorial candidate for the U.S. Senate. He went from that to president in 6 years. This expectation, you'd have never seen this headline from a non-Black Republican in 2009, but you're seeing it now. Jeff seems to be thinking that people are going to give Biden and Harris a pass. These type of headlines seem to indicate otherwise.
No, I think Jeff is 100% right. Look, you can have all these headlines, you can do all of this stuff, but at the end of the day, for too many Black Americans, the issue is anti-Trump versus Savior Biden. That's the reality. And so a lot of people simply believe still that the Democratic Party is going to be more for them whether they deliver or not. In part, though, that's part of our fault on the Republican side because we don't articulate the reasons why Black people should vote first. We cannot continue this message of having people saying, get off the Democratic plantation, all of y'all are criminals, all of that kind of stuff. They're not going to vote for us. Why would they? And so that's the thing. So from the Democratic standpoint, they're saying, look at us. We're very diverse. Look at our cabinet. We have the first Black defense secretary. We have the first Black this, the first Black that. And they're like, yeah. But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter.
So it's interesting. You said something that it sparked a thought in my mind. And I'm almost afraid to ask the question, and I'm going to go to Kira first because she's going to both be very articulate and insightful, but probably burn me with this. Barack Obama was the savior for Black America as the first Black president. Joe Biden was the savior for Black America, saving them from Donald Trump part 2, at least in Black America's mind. Who could possibly be the Black Republican savior that plays a similar role that actually inspires Black people to start diversifying their politics? Are we at a point in time where that's just never going to happen? At one point in time, people thought that could be Tim Scott. They've thrown some other names out there, Michael Steele at one point in time in 2009. Is that ever going to happen? And if it does, is there somebody out there that could do it now? Or is there a prototype that can do it now? Because otherwise, it seems as though this cycle is just going to continue to repeat itself for the next 50 to 75 years.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't think in our lifetime we'll see like a Black Republican savior. I do think that is a sort of a trait of the left, that they've been able to make a brand. So, and they could flip. I mean, politics flips, but it usually takes decades. And I'll tell you what, though, you guys, Lenny, you and Dr. M particularly said something on last episode and the episode before that I have really been thinking about a lot and have been podcasting about and discussing with my fans and readers on my pages. And it is that if the GOP wants to remain relevant, it is time to start playing some identity politics. And I know that there's people watching this right now who are cringing at that, right? Like you're probably white, and you're cringing because you're saying to yourself that A, that's playing the left's game, and B, we don't believe in that. We believe in, content of character, and we don't play those race games. And what Dr. M says, first of all, that's BS, because you promote so-and-so's uncle and such's cousin, and they haven't earned it. That's nepotism runs rampant no matter what side of the aisle you're on. So we know that's not true. Yeah. But second of all, there's nothing wrong with playing identity politics. And the thing is, Lenny, you pointed out that the Democrats have the first Black president. They have the first woman of color vice president.
Right.
They're going to have the first unelected woman president, probably. They have all these firsts, and to us, they might not seem like a big deal, but to the people, they are. That's why you asked me that question about the savior on the left versus the savior on the right, because to the general electorate, it is important that there are firsts, and that's what people want to vote for, and that's what inspires people, right or wrong. It's the world we live in, not the world we wish it could be. So we need to start playing politics as being a part of the world we live in, and the world we live in now, whether you like it or not, is extremely diverse. America is not just a white country anymore. We have to start looking like the people we're asking to vote for us. And it's hard to have a really compelling message out there if people can't even visually look at you first and say, these people, the Republicans need to be able to look at the voter and say, I know what you're going through because I am you.
Yes.
And we can't do that right now because there's a lot of the faces of the Republican Party are white and older and sort of stereotypical looking, and that's nothing against who they are as people or what they have to offer. But it is time to start really playing the game the way the Democrats have been playing, at least insofar as visuals, representation. Start promoting Black people up through the ranks, and not just, one or two, but I'm like and this is most people getting over, and no one wants to get over. And that happens in the Democrat Party too. But that's what the Republicans need to do. They need to start playing identity politics. And I'll say one last thing. Identity politics is not bad. We already do it. We do it all the time, right?
Yeah.
If Mitch McConnell or whatever, Ted Cruz, let's say Ted Cruz is going to speak to the Women's Republican Group of Texas, he's going to go and talk to them about things women want to know about.
Right.
He's going to present to them women's issues because that's what they care about. But if he goes to the farmers group in Iowa, he's going to talk to them about what farmers are interested in, irrigation and water rights and ethanol and those things. That's identity politics. I don't understand why Republicans think that it's any different when you're talking about appealing to Black people or Hispanics. It's time for us to be deliberate. You know who gets it? You know what I saw yesterday, you guys, when the National Guard was sleeping in the parking garage?
Yeah.
That kid, Madison Hawthorne.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He came with pizzas, he had cameras,
yeah.
and he delivered these. He had this tweet. He was like, I'll never let a soldier sleep on the ground on my watch. And I'm like, this kid gets it.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sure he had good intentions, but also he knew the visuals. He knew exactly what he needed to do. Get those cameras in there, bring some warm food, get those soldiers shaking your hands. That's what GOP needs to be, is more deliberate about their messaging.
And I think let me go to Jeff and Chris. Part of that too is the power of being entertaining and inspiring while still being good politically. If you go back to literally 1960, Kennedy wins because he's better looking on television and he's more affable on television. If you go look at 1980, it was the imagery and the energy of Ronald Reagan that helped turn things around in America. If you go to 1992, it was Bill Clinton playing a saxophone on this Arsenio Hall show. Do you remember Arsenio Hall, Jeff? Never mind. And then from there,
Dogtown.
Anywho,
and Obama went on Fallon and did the slow jam.
There you go. And Trump was an entertainer that knew how to manipulate the media. And it's as if, aside from Trump and maybe Reagan, that has been seeded by conservatives, Jeff. We're really good at talking in echo chambers, but if you can use that element to go get the soft middle, Trump proved just 4 years ago It does exist, and all you need is a candidate on the other side that doesn't get it, and you win elections that everybody else doesn't think you should.
You know, I think even this whole conversation really proves a really popular political maxim. The Democrats are the party of the dangerous. They're dangerous. And the Republicans are the party of the stupid. And when it comes to this stuff, Republicans are stupid. And the thing is, and like Kira said, I mean, it's not that we need to start playing identity politics. We already do it. We're just stupid when we do it. So, I mean, you'll say, oh, we don't like identity politics. Yay, Brexit. We don't like identity politics. Oh, Rob Smith is black and gay, and he's on our side. So to you liberals, okay, no, it's got to get deeper than that, y'all. I mean, it's got to get deeper than that. I mean,
it needs to be deliberate.
Yeah, deliberate. Trump wasn't afraid to do it. He wasn't afraid to say, I did this for the black community. And now he exaggerated a lot, but still, at least he was willing to even speak.
So
to the
the Democrats. The Democrats exaggerate. That's all they do is exaggerate.
Yes, but we're talking about deliberate but intelligent, though, right? I mean, we got to do it. It seems like we do it for the window dressing, but I mean, and Jeff brings up a good point, but it would be better if we also had some policies behind it that made some sense, that were still conservative, that still valued our principles.
Well, and my thing is, when I interact with white conservatives on Twitter, so many of them get it. I mean, why is it that they can say things to me like, you know what, we should go into black communities and talk about talk specifically about how conservative solutions can solve the problems that they're dealing with. Yeah, exactly. So why doesn't the GOP get that? Why? And it's not just the party itself. I mean, it's a lot of the media too. They're just they haven't really figured out where they stand on this, because like I said, on one hand they'll say they don't like identity politics, but then they engage in identity politics. Well, choose one, and you know what? Choose the identity politics, because you'll get more Americans that way.
Chris, isn't it also about control too? Because once you go to identity politics and you don't understand the culture, that means that you no longer control the message, and that's where the fear comes in.
Well, and that is exactly where the fear comes in. And so on the GOP side, here's what we do. We're and particularly in this administration, we are putting people out there who are supposedly carrying the message. They're not carrying the message. What we have is essentially the revival of, to some extent, Amos and Andy. And, all of these kinds of caricatures. We are not those caricatures. And so if we go out and we're bringing the message, there are so many things that, for example, you look at the whole concept of economic development. You look at self-sufficiency. Why would I not want to be self-sufficient rather than taking help from the government? As Ronald Reagan says, whenever I hear I'm from the government, I'm here to help, that means I better go the other way. but we've not been able to get that message. The conservative principles and the fundamentals of conservatism, we have gotten away from that, and instead, are on all these kind of fringe elements. If you look at Black people in particular, our concern is about feeding our families. Our concern is about economic survival. We have educating our kids. We have all of those concerns. I don't need to get up in there and do a song and dance about that. What I need to really be able to do is educate on the principles of conservatism. And identity politics, properly done, does that.
Yes, thank you so much. I wish we had an applause sound effect, because I'll just keep it.
Is this like the reverse apple polishing now? Oh, Dr. Metzler, professor teaching us all.
Don't be mad. I said something nice about you already. It
was my birthday week.
I said you need
to run over for that. That's not special.
Look, I just want to say, Dr. M, I mean, amen to that. And this is the thing, and we know this because we're pundits in a world that is dominated by white folks.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't understand. They think because we're all on the same team that and then even on the left, people think that we're just doing this because we stand out and we make more money as Black Republicans, which is hilarious. But the thing is like, it's okay to make space for Black Republicans, for Black conservatives. But there's a lot of people, even on our side, who they want one, they want two, but they don't want 8 or 9 or 10.
No.
Fox wants 1 or 2 Black women, not 8, 9, 10. And the thing is that the whole tone would shift, because perspective shifts if you start flooding the zone. The GOP needs to start flooding the zone. And this is not just an issue of Black versus white. It's also an issue of elite versus the average Republican.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the elitists, it's not just race related. The elitists don't want to move over for those of us who represent the average American. So there's that battle going on too. But listen, Republicans, it's okay. It really is okay to say, I'm going to step aside, or we're going to promote this person because they are Black, because they are gay, because they are a woman. We're going to do these things because these people speak to a certain segment and hold a certain perspective that they can speak about fluently and with authority, because it's the life they live. It's okay. And you mark my words, the second the GOP does that, because the message is good. Like Dr. M said, the message is what Black people want to hear. It's school choice. It's solid economics for your family, learning how to be financially literate, learning how to be a part of the institutions in our society that we find racist now. So getting in there and changing them from the inside. Those are messages of empowerment that the Republican Party has, but Black people can't hear them because there's no one that looks like them disseminating the message. And no, I'm sorry, it cannot just be Candace Owens.
Right.
But
and I really like what you said, Kira, about the elite here, because I just talked about, when I talk to the rank and file, most of them get it, but the elite doesn't. I mean, you have to be part of the Republican aristocracy to have any type of power, and I think that they're kind of afraid of losing it. I mean, there's a book I've been reading just really quick called Republicans in the Black Vote, and he put forth a theory that I actually believed before I even started reading the book. But a lot of the showboating that they do, as far as how they're trying to reach out to Black voters, these people are actually there to convince white conservatives that they're actually trying to reach out to the Black community when they're really not. Why is that? Because 99.9% of white conservatives would love to see more Black and Hispanic people over on the right. They're tired of getting called racist all the time, so they don't feel comfortable being in a party that only wants white people. So they have this whole setup to where they say things like, "Oh, there's going to be a huge Black exodus for Trump," and yada yada yada, knowing that they don't talk to Black people, knowing that they talk about Chicago, but they don't go to Chicago to talk to people. So I think once there's going to have to be a reckoning. I mean, and I think that it's going to be the non-elites, the non-establishment that exposes it and says, hey, so this is how we're going to do things from now on. We are going to actually reach out to minority Americans so that we can make the right but look more like America.
It's more than that. And I want to say this, and we're going to get ready to wrap up. It also has to be, you got to trust the messenger. I can't say that I trust Kira Davis because she's smart and she's talented and she loves America, and the very first time she disagrees with something I say, I say, well, hold on, Kira, wait a minute, hold on.
Right.
Black, right. I'm kind of sort of the host. You can't really talk no more. No, either she's smart and she's talented and she loves America, or she doesn't, and I can't question that the very first time. Too often within the conservative movement, and it has hurt many Americans because we can't get the policies that can empower them out there. It's because people want to control the Black voice that's out there in the conservative movement. That's the problem. If you're going to empower Kira Davis, you got to let her be Kira Davis. If you're going to empower Jeff Charles, you got to let him be Jeff Charles. And there will be times where they disagree with you.
Yes.
But that's okay too, because we don't run away from disagreement within the conservative movement. We have a big tent. We believe in the free market, allowing ideas and resources to rise to the top based on their merit, not based on any type of bullying, whether it's from the left or the right.
Lenny, I'm going to let you finish, but I want to interrupt because you said something that reminded me. I wrote an article, which I didn't mean to be mean, but it was something that needed to be said about Candace Owens. Is that this is the trouble we Black conservatives have with her. A lot of times we have to be stuck answering for her to the Black community. And somebody, and I'm sorry that I can't remember your name, to credit you, but someone tweeted at me something when I posted that article that really made an impact. They said a lot of times white conservatives don't want to hear black voices. They want to hear white voices coming out of black people.
Yes.
You know, Jeff, we joke about, okay, all these things are going to reopen all of a sudden. We make the joke that, you know, we've heard the joke on air that COVID's going to disappear to some Democrats because Biden's now in the White House. But the truth is, they got to own these unemployment numbers, and people will complain about Trump and get really angry at some Democrats soon. Again, we saw black folks in the underclass yell at everybody last year. They were mad at Trump. They were mad at Democrats. They were mad at everybody last year. They don't want a repeat of that going into the summer of 2021.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is that the difference is that they're not going to be able to keep blaming Trump for that much longer. I mean, they'll still try. They're still going to do it. I mean, I read a piece about how they ran on Orange Man bad, and they're going to try to govern that way. It's not going to work. And to me, it's going to be yet another reason why they lose out in 2022. But the bottom line is, it's getting to the point to where, and I think some of them realize this, they have to start opening this stuff back up. I mean, the unemployment numbers are abysmal, and that cannot stand. We can't sustain this for much longer. I mean, you can only do so many stimulus deals. We got to get back to work. We got to take precautions, but still get back to work. Now, I think they did cynically wait until Biden got into office to start doing this. But I think a lot of it is that they recognize that at a certain point, they're going to be getting all the blame instead of just getting part of it. And they're not going to be able to say, oh, Orange Man bad. No, you guys are bad. So you guys are going to be held responsible.
And they created a media. They created an alternative media, like where we all work, that has spent the last 4 years taking receipts. Right? Yep. Screenshotting every demand they ever made. Oh, this is Trump is floating on Obama's economy. Everything that good happened to Trump was because Obama was such an amazing person. And so we took those receipts, and as they want to pull out these little hypocritical moments, we've got the receipts for them. The other thing is, any plan that the Democrats have for bringing jobs back is going to fail. Obama's shovel-ready jobs thing was a failure because government doesn't create jobs. They don't make jobs. The reason why when Republicans get into office that we see, quote, more jobs being made is just that there are certain policies, or even just the market shifts because of the positivity or whatever. You think it's going to be more business friendly. The market will shift, and then that opens the market. Jobs are made from people. Jobs are made from small businesses. Jobs are made from innovators, people who see a problem that needs a solution and provide the solution. We all know government provides a zero solution and only creates problems, which, you know, can be good for private industry because then we work to fix those problems and create more jobs. But Biden is not going to create more jobs. The unemployment numbers are not going to get much better. We'll see some states do better than others. Florida, Texas, California is still closed. You know, half our population already by now isn't working. So we're in a moment in time now that the dust has started to settle, where the Democrats, as Jeff and Chris both alluded to, are not going to be able to run on Trump. They're not going to be able to blame everything on Trump, and they're going to be held responsible for the temperature and the turn that this country is taking. And we're seeing firsthand now the results of their policies. And I don't think America's going to like them. Today, the Democrats dropped the PRO Act back into the House. The PRO Act is the national version of AB 5, which I've been screaming about for a year and a half now. And I told everybody out there who was like, oh, Biden, at least Trump, we won't have to listen to his mean tweets anymore. He's so mean. And I said, y'all, if Biden gets in, this is sitting in the Senate right now. If Democrats win the Senate, this comes back around and we get the PRO Act. And you know what the PRO Act does? It outlaws your side gig. It outlaws freelancing. 300 job categories canceled overnight here in California. And I'm not just talking about writers or actors, which those are among the people. I'm talking about if you contract as a nurse, your job is done. If you contract as a security guard, your job is done. Are you an Uber driver? Are you a Lyft driver? Do you do DoorDash? Do you do consulting work, Chris? Jeff, whatever the work you do when you go to work for other outlets or write guest op-eds, done. All that is done. It's sitting in the Senate right now. So these aren't games that we're playing. People are going to come face to face with the reality of what the Biden administration has promised soon enough. And unfortunately, I do think it means we're going to have to go through some pretty rough times. But again, I always believe that the American voice will have its, day in court.
She's speaking patriotically again. It actually goes to what I was going to say. Number one, you mentioned that the market gets shifted by policies. I thought it was through Reddit users, but we learned that last week. The other thing was that politicians pay attention to receipts. Guess what else politicians pay attention to? Recall signatures out in California, which mentions two things. Number one, your governor out there, Kira, is getting mighty nervous with the numbers that are being accumulated. And number two, I'm not going to say anything, but I'm noticing a different shift in tone and the patriotic voice of the American people rising to the top, coming out in your oratory here all over again. Is there anything you want to announce? It's interesting. I see that you've been looking online looking for some flag pins, and I just thought that was kind of odd too.
No announcements to make. Not yet. But I will announce that the recall is going well. However, we have hit a bit of a hiccup, I think, this week. And that is that a lot of signatures are having to get thrown out because, as you can imagine, the state of California makes the signature gathering process as convoluted as possible. Yep. So there are a lot of people who don't know that there are actually two places to sign on the petition before you leave. And you have to sign it in person. We can't vote in person, but you have to sign your recall petition in person. So I was talking to a friend earlier who was actually volunteering to verify signatures, and she said I had to throw out so many because there weren't two. So I think it's important if you're listening to the show, if you're from California, if you have family or friends in California, please let them know. If you've signed once, go back and re-sign the petition and re-sign it in both places and get the word out. Find out where your local petition is. We've got 1.4 million signatures now. I would imagine close to a couple 100,000 are going to get thrown away. So they really want to make up that spread. We have, I think, 3.5 weeks to do this. The governor, my sources say, is very nervous right now. Very nervous. And the fact that this is a national story right now tells me that this is a big deal for Dems. And this falls right into, you're right on it, Lenny. It falls right into the idea of Democrats overplaying their hand. Newsom way overplayed his hand in this state. And he has probably done a lot of damage to the Democrat Party, whether or not he survives this recall.
Kira, you bring this wonderful story to us, and we got to say this, and then we got to get out of here because after you tell this story, we're not going to want to stick around anyway. You know, we've seen kids come on Zoom calls. We've seen people use the restroom on Zoom calls. We have seen all type of embarrassing things on Zoom calls, except somebody leaving their item of pleasure and love on the shelf behind them during a Zoom hit. No, not you.
No, not me.
That. But Kira, who, how, and why, and please do it quickly because I'm already treading the ice that we're walking on.
I don't remember her name, but she's a woman from the BBC.
She doesn't remember her name either at this point.
It doesn't matter what her name is. All that matters is what was behind her. And Lenny, we've all been relegated to these backgrounds, right? I mean, we're all at home now. We're all having to find interesting backgrounds. A lot of us use a bookshelf. You know, I have my little sign here that says, "This is my bookshelf," because my bookshelf isn't that impressive. And all my books are in boxes, not on shelves. And so I get it. It's hard. You know, you don't have a home studio. You got to set up.
Very hard.
Can you tell her what it was?
It was a dildo. She had a dildo on her shelf behind her. Oh, and wow. I get it. You want a place on your wall that's going to look interesting because you're doing a very serious interview on BBC and you must look very serious. So you have your very serious bookshelves with your very serious books. But please, people, before you go in your very serious programming, just check to make sure that your sex toys are put away.
Yeah. She was on BBC with the BWC in the background. I hope that never happens to me. And you know what? Knock on wood. Let's hope that never happens to any of us.
Lenny, why didn't
that was amazing.
Why don't you have the picture for us this week?
There's FCC regulations. and look, you want to hear something embarrassing that only a dad would do, because dads are a little dense like that. So I'm like, you know what? Okay, I can obviously put a picture of that on the show. I'll put like a little graphic that says XXX so that they know it's really, really raunchy and we can't show it. So you all will laugh, I put XXX into the Google search bar thinking I'm going to get a graphic.
Oh my God.
Oh God, no. Really?
Needless to say, I didn't get a graphic of 3 letters XXX in a row. So with that,
Lenny.
I'm going to digress and let you drink. And I'm going to ask Kira, what is he doing this week other than evangelize the need to practice safe sex during Zoom calls on the BBC?
I'm definitely going to be checking all of my shelves, every shelf to make sure that everything's kosher. So whatever background I use for the next couple of weeks is
there's a joke in there about kosher and never mind. Keep going.
We can do this all day long.
I know.
I'm going to be working a lot this week to make sure that we get out word about the recall, making sure people loop back around, get those signatures that maybe they didn't sign right the first time. We're so close. We've never been this close to recalling a governor, not since 2003. So we could use all the help that we can get. Please tell everybody, share the petition, let everybody know. Every time you see something about recall Gavin Newsom, share it. You can find me on Just Listen to Yourself with Kira Davis, which is available wherever your podcasts are, and find my writing over at Red State.
Dr. Chris Metzler, he of all the degrees, 6 degrees above everybody else on this show. Can you please tell us what we're going to do this week?
We're looking at launching the 2nd season of MetzlerOnTheMic.com. So
nice.
We'll be doing the podcast in which I'll have each of you on separately, so we can gab about what's going on. So that's the plan.
And one of us will be a return guest. I won't say who it is, but I'm just saying. All right, Mr. Charles, what have you got going on this week?
Yeah, as always, you can read my stuff at redstate.com, libertynation.com. You can get me on Twitter at JeffOnTheRight, and check out my YouTube channel, Breaking Conservatarian. I've got some awesome live streams up there. I'll be doing another one tonight, but yeah, I've been putting a lot more content on that channel, and hopefully you love it. Make sure you subscribe.
Are you going to have any of us as a guest on any of your shows, Mr. Charles, Mrs. Davis?
I don't want to go on Jeff's stupid show. I don't care about Jeff's show anyway.
Right?
I didn't even want to be on the show, so it doesn't even matter. You're just giving me what I want. You're just giving me what I want by not having me on the show.
Reverse psychology is very effective. Yeah.
It is. And this is why this show is not 65 minutes long, because this is where the conversation goes after 60 minutes. So while everybody's still smiling and playing nice and acting like they really like each other, and people are safe and sound with the stuff behind them on their little boxes, I'm going to say we bid you adieu. Now, of course, we love you. We're going to be going from coast to coast, interacting with you, pushing for the best that we can with the American dream and making this country better. We're growing the Red and Black channel. Make sure you ask others to subscribe. We have some new and exciting things down the pike. So stay tuned, stay involved, stay engaged, and stay tuned in next week for another episode of Red and Black. In the meanwhile, TCNGB, as Kira likes to say, take care and God bless. Peace.